In today's episode, I'll be traveling around Central Europe, visiting Austria, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic. Along the way, I'll be having incredible experiences and trying some delicious foods. Stay tuned for this episode. I started my adventure with an early morning flight from London to Vienna. As soon as I got to Vienna, it was time to hit the ground running with some adventuring. I wasted no time in heading to the first stop of the trip, St. Stephen's Cathedral, the most famous church in Austria. Built in 1147, it's incredible to think that this is nearly 900 years old. After checking out the cathedral, I made a beeline to try a Viennese specialty, the world-famous apple strudel. Afterwards, I headed back into the city to admire the famous Viennese architecture. The next stop was admiring the world-famous Spanish riding school. Interestingly, a functioning road for cars runs right through the palace. And here, the Austrian government threatens to make you YouTube famous. I left the riding school and journeyed towards my next stop of the day. I then took the time to admire Karl's Church, another one of Vienna's world-famous churches. And that was all for the first day. As I was staying in Vienna that weekend, I knew that Bratislava, the capital of Slovakia, was just a short train journey away. So we're just about to arrive in Slovakia. Stay tuned for the content that's about to come. Upon arrival in Bratislava, I headed straight away for the famous Old Town. Could see the flags of North Macedonia and Georgia, meaning that many countries must be basing their embassies in the Old Town. After hanging out in the Old Town, I made my way to see the UFO Tower. I climbed the hill to Bratislava Castle, where I took a moment to savor the panoramic views of Bratislava. After that, I headed back into the city. To see a few more famous sights, like the Blue Church. And the famous statue of St. George slaying the dragon. And of course, no trip to Bratislava would be complete without a visit to Kamil, the sewer worker. Finish things up in Bratislava, I headed to a traditional Slovakian restaurant. There, I had a traditional dish of pork ribs washed down with a Slovakian soft drink. That concluded day 2 in Central Europe. On the morning of day 3, we headed back to central Vienna. It turns out that this beautiful mosaic is on the back of St. Stephen's Cathedral. We headed for some tafelspitz, a traditional Austrian meal of boiled veal in broth, horseradish, and minced apples. This was definitely an example of Austrian cuisine at its finest. Afterwards, we headed to the famous Café Demo. There was a wide selection of traditional Austrian cakes and pastries on offer. I went for a chocolate cake and decaf coffee. The next morning, I got the first train to Brno in the Czech Republic. It's the UK Expert here, coming to you from Brno, Czech Republic. Let's explore the city today and see what's happening. The first stop in Brno was the astronomical clock. Oh, and do you see, it's snowing! This was a cool bit of architecture, but I couldn't figure out how to tell the time. I wandered through Brno, exploring the city. And took a few moments to hang out with the beast of Brno. I wandered through the city, checking out a few landmarks. And then, my last stop in Brno was the famous 10Z bunker. This was a really cool museum. It's actually a Cold War bunker. This still contained everything from that era, and there was everything from a canteen to a communications room to a generator. We were instructed by museum staff that we could touch or even wear anything in the museum, so here's me trying on some kit. I finished up in the bunker and then headed back onto the streets of Brno. I caught the train that evening back to Austria, concluding my adventure in the Czech Republic. I spent the next morning in Vienna, getting breakfast at the famous Café Landmann. I marveled at the exterior of the Viennese Opera House. My way to the next destination took me through the Firstal Passage. Built almost 200 years ago, the Firstal Passage today is home to an array of shops and restaurants. And finally, it was time to go to what's arguably the most famous restaurant in Vienna, Fiegelmüller.
So, the food is on the table, it's time to tuck in.
Naturally, I went for the house specialty of the schnitzel. I had this accompanied by some classic French fries and, of course, a classic potato salad. Needless to say, I put away this feast. And after this, it was time for me to collect my possessions and head back to the UK. That's all for this adventure. If you loved this video, please feel free to hit like and subscribe.